Everyone, keep your spine erect, chin away from your chest, eyes gently closed. Shift your eye gaze to the third eye, Jyotishmati, the light of awareness within. Take a deep breath and exhale. Please join me in chanting the opening YEC prayer. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome to our weekly the YEC Satsang, where we are reflecting on the contemporary application of yoga, particularly among the youth. The youth is everybody that is uncomfortable with unfair status quo and who always wants to strive for excellence. And today, the focus of the theme is the synergies between the yoga philosophy and the yoga way of life, and one of the other very popular growth mindset frameworks, authored by or revealed by Carolyn Dweck, who's a professor at Stanford. And then I'm super thrilled to have a fantastic panelist, my gurus, Dr. Shriram Sarvotham ji, and then Rajesh Setty. And then today, we will have a special center of attraction. Kiran, who has been traveling with us for the YEC for the past 3 or 4 years. And she's going to join us in, number one, co-moderating the session and also sharing her own reflections and being the mother of 2 kids or 3 kids. Sorry, trying to include Gopi also as a kid, but be the mother of 2 kids. She can also bring the perspective of the contemporary youth. And then, of course, we also have Savita Garu, who is our YEC faculty. She would also share her reflections. So let's get right into it. And number one, Shriramji, let me actually start with you. So you always, in your lectures, you always refer to yoga as more of a growth mindset. It's all about, facing obstacles and, how do you overcome obstacles and strive for excellence. So you want to share anything of your opening point of view about the yoga mindset to cultivate that entrepreneurial spirit?
So, in fact, in the very first Sutra of Patanjali, he describes yoga as a discipline. Atha yoga anushasanam. Shasanam means discipline. And when we inquire into what is discipline, it is tied to growth. In other words, we sacrifice the present moment comfort for the sake of a long-term joy. So the growth seeking is something that is innate within all of us. It comes spontaneously to us. And whenever we strive for something and when we achieve it, then we feel happy for about few seconds perhaps, and then we set our goal post to the next target. So it's natural that there is a growth mindset in all of us. It's ingrained in all of us. So that is why perhaps in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says that 2 things go hand in hand. One is prayatnam, which is effort, and the second one is shaitilyam, which means letting go of that effort. So this combination, and they work in tandem, and they work in a circular loop. For example, for some time we put effort, and then effort results in growth. And if we keep on putting effort, sooner or later we become exhausted. So in order to make the growth sustainable, we also relax. So there is effort, relaxation, and that is how yoga views the process of growth. The growth happens as a result of effort and effortlessness. In fact, more things happen when we let go of that effort. So we put some effort, and then, for example, in the yoga class, we do lots of asanas. That is the effort part of it. In the final segment, when we do the deep relaxation, that is the effortless part of it, shaitilya part of it. That is where we experience the profound bliss. The body's intelligence works in mysterious ways to create more healing, more harmony in the system. So both are equally important in terms of growth.
Wow. Shriramji, this is kind of it's an opening. Like, if you play cricket, you bowl the first ball and then Sehwag hits a six. And the way you answered, about the growth mindset with the first Yoga Sutra, it suddenly opened up new dimensions in me. What a fantastic thing. And then Rajesh, I know you're good buddies with Karl and Dweck. And I remember when a couple of years ago, when I wrote my blog, you CC'd that to Karl and Dweck. And share your reflection on and your association with Karl and Dweck and your own points of view about the growth mindset.
Definitely. First of all, thank you, Shriramji, because Shriramji, whenever I listen to him, it's like enlightenment on demand. You just press a button and there is only aha moments. There is nothing else comes. So I am taking notes furiously. Very good. So first I'm thinking, think about mindset, the fixed mindset and growth mindset. First of all, I don't think there is a lot of discussion about should we have the fixed mindset or growth mindset, because in this community people know that, of course, who will have fixed mindset. In a changing world, fixed mindset cannot even operate, right? So basically think about it this way. When somebody is a kid, so the really small kid, they don't know maths, and some 4 people are there as guests, and dad will say, can you bring water for all of them? The kid says, but how many should I bring? Everybody will say, of course, the kid does not know how to count. He said, his dad will show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good. 5 years later, kid is going to school and the kid asks the same question. Can you bring some water? Kid says, how many should I bring? Then people will think something is wrong with the kid. Why? Because after some time you should know how many people are there. So that growth, if it is not there, it cannot even survive. Human beings cannot even survive because it is expected that they grow. Now, how fast should they grow? How fast can they grow? How much is the hunger for them to grow? That depends on the environment. Because somebody who is brought up with, like I was meeting with a friend, like in India, my mom wanted me to be an engineer or a doctor. In Chinese people, they want to be engineer, doctor, or a lawyer. So these two, my friend was a CEO of an education company, and he has got 1 doctorate. And I thought this is already too much for me. So I asked him, "Is your parents happy?" He said, "No, they're not happy." I said, "Why?" "They both are professors. They have 2 doctorates each." He said, "1 doctorate will do what?" They almost looks like that growth is not enough for them. It's almost like he's slacked off in his eyes. So how much growth is required is also a question of how far should the person go, how deep should everything depends on the environment. So ultimately, the way I think about it is there is a balance. See, what do we do? On a day, we have to create value, otherwise we cannot survive in this planet. So unless somebody is born with a silver spoon and there is enough money and there is no problem, then they can keep spending. But typically in our lives, we have to grow and then we have to create value. But if we don't worry about the future, that means, suppose let's say Y2K period, 2000 days, somebody learns how to do this Y2K fixing, he cannot survive after that Y2K problem is solved, isn't it? It's over. So now somebody is doing this coding business. After the no code movement really takes off, then what will the person do? Now you have to think. So while creating value now, the growth has to be focused on future capacity to create value in the future. The growth has to happen, value creation has to. That balance is what is like, I would say it's a basic 101 is what I think is. I'll stop there and wait for comments or listen to other people's
fantastic comments. And I think what you're saying is there is no other option but other than include the growth mindset as part of your DNA, and we will explore that a little bit more. So Kiran, I think this is something that we experienced as a kids, from the college, and we always oscillate between fixed mindset and the growth mindset, and it's very nature. And as Shriramji said, it requires discipline to cultivate the growth mindset, right? You have to willingly put yourself in the uncomfortable zone for future edition. So share your reflections, and particularly how you see from your own kids.
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I am honored to be sharing the screen with the esteemed panel, and I'm thoroughly already enjoying the session, how it kicked off. Srini, going to your question about fixed mindset versus growth mindset, right? Yeah, honestly, I grew up in an environment where it was all about doing well for yourself, right? You have to get good grades, you have to get into good college, and then good company. So like many decades were spent thinking that way, but it didn't take too long for me to understand that the real world, the changing world is different, right? It's more about actually solving problems, bringing people together and creating that positive culture, right? That's what is valued today more than technically being strong or working in a silo. So as in how like I think about my childhood and all, and I have kids going into teenage almost. It I also read the book, right, like Carol's book, wonderful book. And one key takeaway for me is her point around understanding the power of yet, right? I am a failure versus I am not successful yet, right? So when you switch the language to be yet, then we are pretty much training the mind into that learning curve. Whereas you learn from a failure, you look for the next opportunity to do better, right? So to apply that, right, it's all about like how can we apply that logic or that concept. One ritual that we are trying at home, I would like to share, is like whenever we are preparing for an exam, a contest, or even an interview, right, we try to congratulate ourselves or the other person in the family before we go to the contest, right? Because we are appreciating the effort, the journey, and the discipline that you have put into it. Outcome is a byproduct. If you succeed, you have done it well. If you did not succeed, you'll have to change the course and try something different next time. But we are already appreciating the fact that we got to this point of trying and working at it, right? So that hopefully that makes sense. That's something that we are trying, and it at least puts us in the right mindset to look at the bright side, irrespective of what happens in that competition or that effort, that challenge.
Wow,
I'll take a
Kiran.
pause and see.
What a wonderful, wonderful way. I think this is something that we could all perhaps take it to our lives, where before you go to any important thing, celebrate the opportunity to even get to play versus, celebrating only after the thing. I think, from my own experience, what I'm realizing is, going back to Kiran, Rajesh, and Shriram said, any initiative requires us to put ourselves in the uncomfortable zone. Any new thing, starting from going from kindergarten to elementary, or elementary to thing, which is like, which is very nature. You're always constantly doing it, or even practicing yoga. First time it's not like a sitting on a nice jolly ride, right? You have to go bend and so on and so forth. And then that's where it basically, the mind puts us into a trick thing of, why do you need to take this challenge? Why do you have to put yourself into the uncomfortable zone? And that's where the framework, what Carolyn talks about is, how do you view this new challenges or pursuit of, entering into the area of unknown, entering into the area of, putting yourself into the uncomfortable zone. And I think, Shriramji, this is also something, do you see along with the first sutra, Atha Yoga Anushasanam, as a discipline, and does it also equate to the Kriya Yoga? It is like Tapas, Swadhyaya, ishvara, prannidana, is the mindset that we need to cultivate in enter new things?
That's an excellent point, Srini. Yes, in fact, the word tapas itself means the willingness to place ourselves in an uncomfortable situation for a long-term benefit. It is not torturing oneself. In torture, there is no benefit even in the long term. It's suffering throughout. Whereas tapas means I am willing to undergo this short-term discomfort for the sake of a long-term joy or long-term growth. And I'm also reminded, my teacher used to give this example. We were talking about the first Sutra of Patanjali. Like that, even in the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita itself, there is a lot of wisdom that is hidden, that is contained as far as growth is concerned. So when you look at the first two words of the Bhagavad Gita, Dharma and Kshetra, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. These words were spoken by the king Dhritarashtra. So the first word is Dharma. Dharma is what is my intrinsic nature. Like the seed contains the tree hidden within it. Its potential is there. Now, if we don't know our potential, we won't even try. You see, we won't even think that there is a value in participating and exploring and expressing the fullness within me. For the seed to express itself fully, to blossom into a big tree, and for all the fruits and flowers to blossom, it requires a kshetram. Kshetram is the field. So we put ourselves in that field for the sake of self-discovery, number one, and number two is self-expression. And in order to illustrate this, let me quickly give a couple of metaphors that my teacher used to give. One metaphor is to see how the value of putting ourselves in this field reveals something about ourselves, reveals about our own potential. And the example he used to give was, if you take a compass with a magnetic needle, right? Suppose the compass is thinking, who am I? I want to discover myself. Suppose the compass is in outer space, right? It doesn't have a preferred direction. In outer space, there's no north, south, nothing. So it just points itself in some random direction. But the moment you bring the compass into this field, in the kshetram called the earth, immediately it aligns itself. And it discovers, wow, if I'm aligning myself with north-south, that means I'm a magnet. I'm a magnetic needle. It reveals something about itself. Like that, in our life, we are placing ourselves in this planet Earth in all these situations, circumstances, and we experience the duality of sukham and dukkham, right? Happiness and sorrow. Now, we have a preference, right? Between sukham and dukkham, if somebody asks a question, which one would you like to choose? Everyone will say sukham, I hope, right? Everyone will say sukham. Just like a magnet prefers a direction and discovers itself, we prefer sukham. And what does it reveal about ourselves? It says something about ourselves, that intrinsic nature of oneself is joy. And how can I bring forth that fullness from within me? That is one thing. And the second is, just like when you place a seed, this is a second metaphor. When you place the seed in the soil, we create the perfect conditions, perfect situations for the seed to blossom itself to fullness, for all the flowers, the fruits to blossom fully. So the field, the kshetram, by participating, by jumping into this world and participating, it is revealing us about our own self, our full potential, and as well as to express. So experience ourselves and express ourselves fully. So this, I think, is a great way in order to explore our growth, because a seed grows to its fullness. The potential is already there, and it grows to its fullness, and it reveals itself with the flowers and fruits and so forth.
Right. So beautifully said. You know, the metaphor that you said, the tree is already there in the seed. It's like, you know, that's what even in Advaita, in our philosophies, it's like you are that infinite. That seed is there. We all have the same seed within us, right? But unfortunately, not many youth means, you know, all of us included, you know, sometimes, you know, we may not be able to pursue and go put that effort or celebrate the effort. And then there are, you know, the second framework is about the obstacles, you know, the dimension of the obstacles. It almost feels like Patanjali knew what was talking about in antarayas. So Rajesh, in your experience, or Kiran, in your experience, why many of them are not able to see the tree and put that effort? And have you, Rajesh, have you had any insights about you know, the challenges and what people typically get stuck on?
Correct. So first thing is, really thank you, Shriramji and Kiran. Both of you shared wonderful things. So first, let me take one. What is happening? There is one environment. There is a broader environment of the media and the conversations that are happening. Those are also influencing things. When Shriramji talks about sukham, dukkham, let's say, what is sukham? there is one I can say. I can also reframe in my mind that practice is also happy. Once I reframe it, then it is not even dukkam. But why this is not happening is because there is media. You just have to like, how many of you have seen Friends, the series? Some of you, at least one episode you must have seen. If you watch that Friends for 4 or 5 episodes, that will be enough to mess your mind, because that in that episode they never work. Nothing. All sheets are clean. The food is already cooked. And how the shirts and pants are already pressed. There is nothing to do. They're always talking, having fun. Now that becomes the benchmark of Sukham. Who is doing it? Mom is doing it at home. Everything is getting ready. And they're thinking automatically nothing will happen. But in their mind, see how friends, super cool. That's the life I want. But to prepare for that, they need to do a lot of things that is in the background, but that is not shown in the movie because that will be boring. Friends will never be succeed after that, isn't it? That will just a flop show. Only one season, and half of it will be removed. So what happens is the mimetic desires that are implanted is defining what is sukham, what is dukkam, because they just blur and then just numb the system to think what should be the right thing to do, because there's nobody who is setting, please don't believe this. And just like, even forget about it, even on cigarette packet it says cigarette smoking is injurious to health, it might cause you death. Then also people are smoking. So even if friends come and say this is not real, please don't try this at home, every single time agree, please press this button, agree, only then we will show, nothing will happen. People want to numb themselves because everybody else is watching, so they will also want to watch. That is the biggest problem that I see, is what do we hang on to as our definition of sukham and dukkam. Once we are able to reframe, for example, if I say, like, we should all have bias for action, who will say no to it? Everybody will say yes, because the opposite of it is bias for status quo, isn't it? So, why did we quickly say yes without saying what else could be better than bias for action? Why? Because the mind always thinks in absolutes: dark, light, night, day, good, bad, ugly, beautiful. Everything is in absolutes. But in real life, we know that there is no absolutes. Everything is a continuum, isn't it? Once that reference point gets into our head, if somebody says, should we have bias for action? It is good. If you're comparing into bias for status quo. But if you're comparing to two people who are also having bias for action, what could be better? Okay, let's reframe it. Like Kiran, like you mentioned about the words yet, the power of yet, just one word, it makes a big difference. Here also I'll replace the word action with contribution. What would be better to live with a model of the world? Should it be bias for action or bias for contribution? Without even blinking, we'll say bias for contribution. Then why are we not reframing things that is for our benefit now and in the future? Why? Because it requires time for reflection. Like, this whole thing is free, right? So we're not charging anyone. How many people could attend? How many are attending? It's because there are so many other attractions that are happening. So is the problem is I cannot even tell anything, because all the people who are come here, they don't need to listen to it. They're already here. So if I say some advice to people who are not here, they're not listening to it anyway. So it becomes a moot point. So people who should listen, all these people probably don't even need it. They already know it. They're here so that they think they need it. People who don't need it, they're not even aware that they need it. Yes, that is the problem.
Wow, but that reframe that you talked about, because the entire concept of what is sukham and dukkam is just like, because that entire needs to be reframed. Unless we change that, the paradigm of, reframe that entire context of what is sukham and learn to enjoy the discipline, learn to enjoy the effort, learn to enjoy that, I think, only then. Otherwise, the world is teaching a different thing. Like the way you looked at the Friends or Seinfeld or any one of them, it's always like, go party. I'm talking to more and more youth, whereas like, what do you want to do? I want to have a lot of money. I want to live in a nice, happy house, and I want to party everywhere. They think that is what is lifetime pursuit. Right. So Kiran, anything about, the what you see as even though the seed is wanting to sprout into the tree, but what are the typical obstacles that you see, yourself or others run into?
Sure. What Rajesh ji said is like outstanding. And maybe I'll add one more flavor to that. This applies to youth, but also us, like, I mean, of course, Srini, you're youth too, but to the grown-ups as well, I would say, is like, the fear of failure or fear of being judged. For instance, my son, he wants to try out to be on a team, right? He wants to, but he's fearful that what if I try and I don't get in? Then people will judge that, hey, he's not good enough. If I don't try, if I act cool, I'll be safe, right? And that's perhaps stopping them from pursuing, like, excellence, right? Like, he may be capable. Even if he's not, then at least he has tried, he has learned something out of it. And that's a challenge that I face. How do we encourage that thought process? It's okay to fail, but I want you to try. So I would like to see if Shriramji, Rajeshji, any insights there, how we can teach kids.
I'm going to share something.
Yeah, absolutely. Please go ahead.
So I'm going to share everything. We can add some humor to it, Kiran. So basically, there are three kinds of people we can say. One is people who are tried and tested. That means they'll try and they'll test and they'll succeed. Then tried and died. So they tried and in the process they didn't succeed. That project died. The third one is died without trying. That means the dreams are dead without even trying.
Wow.
You ask them, which one do you want to be? You just say it. By nature, they will not want to be died without trying because they will say, oh, that will look odd. Like, that will be shameful. Tried and died looks more like strong things than tried and tested, because only few people, and we can ask them if they say tried and died, we say if they want to tried and tested, how many people will go who didn't pass through the tried and died and reach the tried and tested? Very few, isn't it? Because if everybody wins a game, let's say in the whole math exam, they only give two questions. What is 1 + 2 and 3 × 4? They'll be bored to death, because next year also they say what is 1 + 2 and 3 × 4. They also, even in a video game, they need to keep raising the standards. So first step is to change the frame and say, we show them things that are ridiculous. When it actually applied, it's ridiculous. If you say, who will say, I want to be in the camp of died without trying? I want to kill my dreams with it. Nobody will say it. Once they openly, vocally say it, then it becomes easy, because there is a chance that they will be tried and died, which is okay, but at least I tried. And the journey itself is enriching. Then died without trying. That's one. Second is to always mention this celebrations have to be really, really careful. When I came to United States, I didn't come for studying. And my son was in one class, they said there is a graduation ceremony. I said, what graduation ceremony? So they're from first grade to second grade. I said, what is wrong with these people? It's not grad, there is nothing happened. So there's a phantom sense of accomplishment that comes here. I mean, it's good and all, you can get some cake cutting and all this, but take it to an extreme level. The kid will think, I achieved something. They did not achieve anything. So you have to always say, phantom celebrations have to end, or we should be treated like jokes. This graduation ceremony is a joke, which is okay. Other people will think it's a celebration, let them think. But never should anybody think that a phantom achievement equals to an achievement.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's really speaking the kids' language, right? Like that strikes the chords. Thank you so much for sharing that.
This is a fantastic thing. I think, this phantom celebration. And Shriramji, I would love for you to reflect on, and I know this is one of the very favorite topic that you talked about, which is the antarayas, which is like, what are the typical obstacles that, like, why people don't try? Like, Kiran talked about, Shaurya, and talking about, the fear of failure. And it almost looks like, from what you revealed, Patanjali had this foresight and revealed it. Do you want to spend some time talking about the typical antarayas and obstacles, and then we can look at, some of the remedies?
Yes. So what are the obstacles to growth? Why don't we even try? So before I step into that, I was reminded of, again, one of the teachings from what my teacher used to say. So he used to say, if we never experienced failure, of course, failure is a relative term. We can reorient our perspective around failure as a stepping stone. But if we do label something as a failure, and if someone declares, I have never had any failure in my life, all I've experienced is only success, then my teacher used to tell that person, that means you're deeply entrenched in your comfort zone. Because how do you know the boundary of your comfort zone? Only when you sense your limits. If you play tennis, for example, and you choose an opponent and you are able to win them every time, 1,000 tournaments you play and every time you win, there is no joy in that, there's no thrill in that. Thrill happens only when there is equal chance of success and quote unquote failure. Only then it brings the best in us. It brings us to the edge of our comfort zone, which leads to growth. Otherwise, we are deeply entrenched in our comfort zone, doing 1 + 1 all the time, 3 × 4 all the time, just like Rajesh ji mentioned. Now, why do we sometimes not step into that growth mindset? For that, Patanjali describes 9 antarayas, Nava antarayas. And I don't want to enumerate all of them, but in the context of this discussion, let me put the spotlight on one, which is called Alabdha Bhumikatvam. Alabdha Bhumikatvam. What it means is, when somebody puts a lot of effort and they find themselves stuck in a plateau and they are not seeing any progress from there. So the word Alabdha Bhumikatvam itself is very interesting. Bhumikatva means attaining a ground, Bhumi, ground. Alabdha means not able to achieve that. So not able to attain the next ground or next step. We are putting a lot of effort, but then we get discouraged. And it happens to many people in the practice of yoga. For example, if somebody decides, okay, I want to practice meditation every day. Practice every day, and after 1 or 2 months of daily practice, they feel depressed. Oh my God, my mind is still not silent. I've been meditating for 60 days now. Mind is still chattering. In fact, it is more chattering now. I'm more discouraged. I don't have the initial enthusiasm. What can I do? They are stuck in a plateau. They don't see the progress there. And for that, how do we get over that? For that, it is a good idea to remember that when you take the seed and the flower analogy, flower doesn't appear on the very next day. You sow the seed, you water the plant, you allow all the nourishment, the sunlight, etc. And in due course of time, you see evidence of progress. You see, lack of evidence doesn't mean it's the evidence of lack. You see, and to rephrase it, we can say that the evidence of progress happens only towards the end. And another analogy, if you can say, is if you boil water. So you see the transformation when it reaches 100 degrees C. You see the water transform into vapor. But every ounce of heat that we give to the water contributed to the final transformation. So every amount of practice, and Bhagavad Gita says it beautifully, Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Swalpamapi, even a little bit of practice is very precious. Even though you don't see any quick evidence of great progress, but it's very valuable. Why is it valuable? Because every effort that we make builds up on the effort of the previous day, and it works in compound interest. The growth is exponential. Sooner or later, we have to see the evidence. So putting the practice, even though we don't see evidence of it, is called, in yoga, there's a name for it. It's called Shraddha. Shraddha means trusting the process. I trust the process. Sooner or later, I will see the flowers, the fruits. I am now just simply watering the plants. And that mindset, Shraddha mindset of trusting, will help us to overcome the obstacles.
What a fantastic way. And the way you started with the example where unless you see the failure, you don't really test the boundaries. In fact, sometimes we say the acronym FAIL as first attempt in learning. And then sometimes I equate it like 50 attempts in learning or 500 times in learning. So you just have to improve your learning capacity. So just reframe the word, fail to, it's like it's just an attempt in learning. So and the way you explained all of the Bhumikatva, and the way you explained, the flower manifests at the end, but the journey is there. In fact, we need to do a focus session Shriramji, with you on each one of these obstacles, because I believe that each one of them is the common reasons. Whether it's a doubtful, like what Shaurin said, is like, what if I'm not able to be successful, or the physical thing, and then we probably need to come up with the right mindset of the solution on how we can tackle each one of them. So, in the spirit of completing this framework, let me move on to other things. Kiran, anything that you would want to add about how we can reframe it?
No, I think that's amazing. Sriramji, like I had this question, but you answered it before I could ask. But anyway, I wanted to kind of, put that in my own words to make sure I understood it right. So one of the personal challenges that I also see, right? So we have so many life priorities. You have personal, professional, family, and all. So we do have the excitement. We do have the motivation to start like on a good journey, like, something journey, but I see that very quickly we get distracted, right? Distracted is the right word. We have the intention, but then we feel that, hey, I started on that, but then I got distracted. It's might be it's an excuse, but we have a word for that, right? Arambha Shuratvam. So we start on a great note, but very soon we see that Shuratvam kind of disperses, right? So how can we keep ourselves on track without, with also focusing on everything else that we need to focus for life?
Shriramji, do you want to quickly answer the thing? I know you talked about the thing, but there are other things on how we can stay within the don't continue. Anything that you want to add there?
Yes, you hit the nail on the head, Kiranji, because initially there's a lot of enthusiasm, especially on New Year's Day, right? We make a dozen resolutions, and by Shankranti time, everything is forgotten, or the initial enthusiasm has slacked a little bit, or we have even forgotten our New Year's resolution, right? So keeping up the same enthusiasm, how can we do it? One way to do it is to keep reminding ourselves of people who have already done it and keep inspiring ourselves, having a role model and keep thinking about them. And as they say in yoga, wherever you pour your awareness, our mind becomes like that. You pour water into a container, it takes the same shape. Like that, whatever you keep thinking about, you become like that. So when we keep that target, then we get re-inspired. We re-inspire ourselves into the practice. And let me share one more thing. You mentioned about variety of responsibilities. We have our time, which is in much demand at professional level, personal level. There are so many demands on our time. This is exactly when we need yoga practice, right? Somebody who has no responsibilities, okay, they will get a lot of energy, more prana will come into the system, but then what? Only people who are busy, like Gandhiji used to say, oh, today I have too many commitments. I have to meditate 2 hours instead of 1. That's what he used to say. It is like the half an hour or 1 hour we dedicate for the practice of yoga, you will actually get back 2 hours worth of efficiency and work done. We think that we have only 23 hours to do our regular life, but we actually gain one more additional hours, like 25 hours we have. And in order to drill home this point, my teacher used to give a analogy, which I have mentioned in one of the past sessions here. So it's the analogy of the Egyptian slaves. They were carrying all these big blocks of stone, tons of weight, and all these Egyptian slaves, they used to drag these stones up on the pyramid. They're building the pyramid, right? So one day, a remarkable thing happened in the history of humanity. Somebody discovered wheels. They don't need to drag things anymore. You can easily take them with the help of the wheels. So this person who discovered the wheels goes to the slaves and says, oh, I have a way to make your life simple. And you know what the slave said? Don't you see I'm busy? I want to listen to your marketing speech later. First, let me attend to my responsibilities. I have no time for you. Not realizing that it will help them. Like that meditation or even yoga practices, they're all make our life lighter, easier, less burdensome. And when we remind ourselves of that, We don't see it as an obligation. Oh, I have to do yoga today. We do it willingly, realizing that it's going to make my life easier.
What a
Amazing.
beautiful.
That amazing. That actually gives the clarity you need to better your actions throughout the day. Amazing. Thank you so much.
And the other thing that I would add one thing to Shriramji is not only in addition to taking an inspirational role model, we always need to bring it back to the four attributes of a good high quality practice. It's not about, hey, I became a champion. We should not celebrate the outcome, but rather we should always stay within the lanes of what is a good practice is. It's like Satu Dirga Kala Nairantara Satkara Sevito. When we celebrate that journey and help people to celebrate that level of practice, then we are actually really rewarding the effort, not the outcome. And on that note, Rajesh, I think, just like how you said, we have to reframe what is Sukham versus Dukham. Don't we need to reframe in the world around the measures of success, the metrics of success and the rewards? Because we all seem to be getting hung up by, the first question that everybody asks is like, what do you do? How much money you make? Where do you live? What neighborhood do you have? I think the whole system is intertwined in establishing a wrong set of metrics, like the Seinfeld's equivalent or the Friends equivalent. So what do you think is the reframe that is needed, and any suggestions on how we can actually get there?
Yeah, so very important. First is to become comfortable with our own journey that we have to do. And second is to say, should I be measured by outside forces to say what I'm doing is ready or not? That itself is a mega burden. So if you have to explain to other people, say, I'm on a compounding journey, but it's happening silently. You can't see it. So just hold on, and people will say, what? It's the last 3 years, this guy has been telling the same thing. Nothing is showing up. And then how comfortable will I be to be judged? That's the first thing, to be very comfortable with your own skin. First thing. And then imagine there is I don't know whether any of you have seen the movie Jab We Met. It's a Hindi movie. So in that there is a song, Hum Jo Chalne Lage, and then it says, one stanza says, Manzil se behtar lagne lage raste. It means better than the destination is the journey itself. Once you keep that in mind and always remember it, that we are enjoying the journey and growing slowly but steadily, then we are comfortable with it, right? So basically, when I am comfortable, the confidence shows up, because the other people, you don't have to even question it. Then again, to keep on thinking, how do we intervene? Let's say, Kiran, you want to bring your kids to a fast track growth. I'm not saying that they are not already there. Let's say assume that you want to even more fast track growth. What would we do? So there is a manufactured constraints we have to create. So basically, for example, when I was, the way I have been taught is, anything I start, I think in 10 years, next 10 years, will I be doing every single day? So once I said this, who said it? I only said it. Is it right? No. But in the yoga, 2007 I started. Until now, I only skipped 2 days. In writing, I've been writing 1 page every day from when I was 10 years old, and I have not stopped, except during those Parkinson's times when I could not write. I did not write. But otherwise, I do it every day. Because by the time you reach those 10 years, it becomes so much of a it becomes in your background thinking. You're not even thinking you're doing anything. It's almost like you brush your teeth. It's like that. You write and you do your yoga. It becomes so much of it. You don't even need a mention. Then even when I started meditation, for the first 3-4 years, I thought nothing has changed. Only people around me started saying, how are you so calm all the time? You never get angry. I said, is it? I didn't even observe that I have not got angry for a long time. In fact, when I was the CEO of a company, at that time I had to manufacture anger. Basically, I would say, if somebody loses a deal, I'll say, nothing happens to me, but I have to really manufacture it. So what happens, you bring people to an environment like that, they will see what is possible. I'm not saying me. You can, like, for example, let's take a public thing. In November, there is this event that happens across the nation called NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. So about 135 to 150,000 people who always have bucket list. In their bucket list, there will be, I want to write a book, and all of them Kids to adults, they participate. What is the rule? Every day you have to upload what you wrote into a server and it gets registered. Today I wrote 650 words. Across the nation, they will be seeing how many people. You can say in California, what is the average they're writing? In Texas, what is the average? Now they say, oh, I was telling my mom that I'm putting a lot of effort. The average is like 4 times what I'm doing. I myself will buckle up next day because you don't want to be left behind and there is nobody to compare. Now there is an average is already 4 times higher. Before 15 days, everybody will be settled. So I've written so many books, but this time I wanted to write a novel back in English. When I started it, it's not easy because you have to finish 50,000 words within 30 days and then you got the certificate, sort of bragging rights. So I was like struggling when I was 15 days because I have written novels in my own language, Kannada language, but never in English. I've written non-fiction. So this time I had to think of a plot, how do I change it, twist and turns and everything. I was struggling. So then there was a writing party where veteran writers will host other writers into their home and they give coffee, tea and all. They can continue to write. It's like an environment where everybody is writing, so you feel good about it. So the host was very calm and composed. So the only thing they asked during that NaNoWriMo is, what is your word count now? That's like a greeting. Hello. Hello means I have to say 6,800. Other person will say 15,200. Then there is a hierarchy established. Oh God, you can learn something from him. So the host, everybody says, oh, so what is it? She said 2,800. Everybody started concern. No, don't worry. It's already day number 17. Don't worry. People have started later than you. She said, no, this is my third novel this month. She said. Suddenly there's mic drop. Said, what? She says she routinely writes one novel in 10 days. So during this time, she buckles up and she writes 4 or 5. Now you know what is possible. That will be the inspiring moment, because until now, in general, there is nobody in our neighbor who is writing 4 novels in a month, right? So suddenly you get into an environment, they say human mind is so damn powerful. Until it's exposed to a new standard of excellence, it will think, okay, I'm good. In this environment, I'm good. I'm the king of the jungle here. But the jungle itself is small, like a zoo kind of thing. In real jungle is Africa. There is a lot more people who are more powerful. So that's what I'm thinking. If you want to expose people to a fast track growth, you have to expose them to a standard that they have never seen. But not tell them that it's unreachable kind of thing. But everybody around us, there are so many people who are doing this. When the standards are raised and then the people show that people who are practicing those standards are also not making it look like it's a Herculean effort. They're not Atlas or some Mahatma Gandhi or something like that. They're normal people. Then the self-belief will go up. If they can do it, I can do it. Then a new world is exposed. In the new world, they automatically go on fast track.
That's amazing, Rajesh ji. That reminds me of one saying that caught my attention. You are the average of 5 people you spend most time with, right? So when you surround yourself with these, high efficient, positive people, that pretty much boosts what you could do, what you can think, what you think you can do. Thank you for that.
Kiran, so beautifully said. You're the average sum of, because that's oneness, right? The Satsangat way, it gets into the capacity. So the last one that I want to explore, and we'll start with Shriram ji, is about like what Kiran and Rajesh, talked about. It all comes down to the people that we are associated with. And the people is the biggest contribution to helping or, breaking your growth mindset. And the two things that we often have to deal with is sometimes people, when you're not performing well, they criticize you. You're so stupid. I remember when I joined Microsoft, within 1 month, somebody told me, my team is like, you're so stupid, on my face. And I was like, wow, thank you. And, I'm glad that he realized it back then. So that was one. And then the second thing is, different people make comments about, different things. How do we treat criticism? I know sometimes you refer to Badabagni as one thing, how can you use that as a fuel? And then the second dimension is the alternate of it. If somebody is becoming more successful, you often try to, because you yourself are not able to do it or you're overcoming, you may be jealous, or you might try to poke holes about it. So from your, yoga way of life, how do we handle this people dimension, when people criticize you, or when other people succeed around you?
Yes. So let me turn it around and suppose we see somebody failing. How do we criticize them? Do we think that we'll inspire them when we say something sharp, like sharp criticism, when we tell them? Do we think that it's going to inspire them, right? So this is where one of Patanjali's wisdom called upeksha comes in. So what is upeksha? So for that, it's like this. Let me share a personal story. I think I've shared this before, but I think it's very relevant in this context. So early on, we were talking about how many of us were in a rat race. Engineer or a doctor, that is the career path that has been set, and our expectations from our parents, from our friends, relatives, it's all very intense in our growing years. So I was in that rat race. I wrote this thing called Iit Jee Joint Entrance Examination. Perhaps it's familiar to many of you in the audience here, right? Very competitive exam. So I was able to succeed in that only in my second attempt. The first attempt, the first time when I tried, I didn't get a rank. And in my mind, I was a failure because I prepared 4 years for it and I didn't get. So I thought in my mind that I'm a failure. I don't think I am ingrained for that kind of excellence. I'm not fit for it, was the judgment that I put on myself. But my father had a different idea. He said, "Oh, I know you are very intelligent. I know you have the potential. Just write it next time, you will succeed." And the conviction with which he said that, it was very sincere. I could feel that. He was not just saying that to make me feel happy in that moment. He was so sure. He was so convinced that I'll be able to succeed. And that's what happened. In other words, he was able to see the goodness in me, even though I was not able to see it in myself. You see? So when we receive criticism, for example, we can think that, oh, they are not able to see the divine that is residing in me. A person who is truly uplifting will not put somebody else down. They will see the divinity in them. Namaste, when we say namaste, the divine in me respects the divine in you. That means you are able to see the tree even when it is in seed form. When it is a full-blown tree, everyone sees it. There is no big deal in that, right? When it is not yet manifest and you are able to see the potential within, that is what a guru does, or that is what a coach does, right? They're able to see your potential even though we are unable to see it, even though the evidence shows that we are not fit for it. If I were going only with the evidence, in my first attempt after IIT JEE, I would have given up and done something else in my career. But somebody else was able to see, my father was able to see that there is a potential in me. So that is one way to handle criticism, is upeksha. Upeksha means don't take it personally. Have a thick skin. If somebody criticizes, have a thick skin. That's what upeksha is. Now, if we see somebody succeeding, so that is the other point that Srini mentioned, we can actually use that to inspire ourselves. So the way to use other success in our own life to succeed is by appreciating that. Sometimes we are tempted to do the opposite. We are tempted to criticize them or find faults or nitpick them because the ego will have a one-upmanship. It's like, oh, if I were Steve Jobs, I would have created the iPhone differently. You see? So when you see somebody succeeding, then appreciate. That is what is called mudita. Mudita, appreciation, rather than trying to poke and find faults. So that will help us in the way. So when you see somebody succeed, offer mudita. And when somebody criticizes you, then have a thick skin. Don't take it personally. And even a challenge attitude. Let me show them my true potential. That can also be inspiration for some people. So there are all these different ways that in the Yoga Shastra, in the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, he gives such teachings as well.
The beautiful thing, the synergy of, where is Carol and Dweck, where is Patanjali, but they all reveal the same truths. But on that front about dealing with people, particularly, what do we need to do when you face criticism or when you see the success of others? Kiran and Rajesh, would love to hear points of views as well.
So, Kiran, go ahead.
No, please, Rajesh. I'm still gathering my thoughts. I'm
Okay.
amazed towards how Shriramji explained these two concepts.
Definitely. See, first thing is I really like the Upeksha concept because I still remember in my second year PUC, which is the 12th grade. So I had a choice to take Sanskrit or Kannada. And people used to take Sanskrit because it's easy to score and then you can get a rank because there are only 10 ranks in the 12th grade. So, but I had written 6 books in Kannada by that time. If I take Sanskrit, first of all, it will look like I'm cheating myself. And then, so I was talking to my teacher. I said, I have this dilemma. I got 20th rank in SSLC, 10th grade. And then I should do well, but there's this dilemma. Should I take Sanskrit or Kannada? So the teacher said, it was very nice. That one statement changed everything. So Kannada was for 150 marks. He looked at the book. He said, see, look at this. 250 pages. You have one full year. If you want, you can remember this whole book, no? Can you try? Who will beat you? I think I was telling for a joke, but I took it seriously and remembered the entire book. The whole Kannada book I knew. What page, what line, what sentence, which poem, everything I was there. So then I got 146 out of 150, which was never happened. Because how can they cut marks? If I can print everything is in the textbook, they cannot do anything else. But that Upeksha moment for me was the game changer because somebody else believed and with same conviction they said, this whole book can be remembered. And that changed the game for me. And I always thank the teacher. Even today, whenever I go to my town, I always thank them because that one thing, then it started sinking in me. And everything that I do in my life, I always think everybody is doing it in one way. Is there a reframe I can do to do it in a way where I have the highest growth path? When there is a crossroad, people think easy path or difficult path. Of course, nobody will go to the difficult path just because they want to have difficulty. But I always think, is it the easy? I don't think about less growth path or high growth path. Which one will be there? When I look at what Kiranji said, is which path will give me the right crowd that I'm surrounding with. So that's the most important thing. If I'm looking at a company, all the companies that I belong to, none of them is connected to anything else. People think, what is the theme? No, theme is not with the theme of the industry. Theme is who are the people involved. That is my theme. So when the right people are involved, the criticism almost always gets dissolved. Why? Because everybody is interested in everybody growing. Suppose, let's say, somebody gets in because the wrong person gets in, he starts criticizing. You have one simple thing. First, remove the criticizer with the criticism. So, because you start judging the person who is giving the message more than the message itself. Because you really want to defend and you start thinking. Suppose, let's say, Srini criticizes me. So, usually he does not, but let's say he criticizes me. First I think, what is wrong with Srini? First, let me also criticize it. That is wrong. If he criticizes, it's only for my good. If he wants me to improve it. First, I say, please tell me more. It's a simple. Any criticism, please tell me more. If the person is recklessly criticizing, he cannot explain because he cannot say, please tell me more. I want you to feel bad. That's why I'm saying this. No, he can't say it. He will be exposed, right? Or if the person gives one explanation, say, is anything else? After 2-3 times, he will go nuts because he didn't get the laughter or internal pleasure. I want you to suffer. That pleasure is not there, and I'm enjoying with him. Please tell me, is there anything else? Is that it? Can you think of some more things? It is not the pattern that he is expecting. So the next time he will not criticize because it's no fun. In fact, it's torture for the criticizer. But if it was with a good intention, you will learn and grow from this. So the right intention, the competent person, caring person criticizing is a gift. Wrong intention can be diffused by asking, please tell me what is, tell me more 3 times and they're gone.
What a fantastic way. It's a fantastic way. So Kiran, anything that you want to talk about, criticism and the success of others?
No, I loved it, right? So criticism and changing that to more of a constructive feedback, right? So asking more questions, you're actually transforming that discussion into something that is more developmental than trying to offend you, right? So you're actually encouraging, if they really mean good for you, the conversation will land into that space. Otherwise, as you said, that negative energy will diffuse away, right? That's amazing way to really handle that. Thank you. And otherwise, I think handling success, right? Like handling somebody else's, like, how do we perceive somebody's success? That's a great way, like how Sriramji said, you can use their success for yourself by appreciation. I love the way you framed it, Sriramji, because most of the times the jealousy element kicks in, right? Like, oh my gosh, I should have done that, or I deserve that more than that person, right? If you believe, or you get into this inferior complex. One of those two things happen, right? Either feeling inferior or jealousy. But when you make the switch and say that, hey, that success can be used well in a good fashion if I'm showing appreciation for it. So thank you for both nuggets.
That's so wonderful. That's
Let me
wonderful.
make a very quick point.
Uh-huh.
The word appreciation itself also means to grow. So it also directly leads to a growth mindset.
Correct. It's so wonderful.
Amazing.
And there are two things that I would say. About the criticism. My executive coach at Apple, Rod, actually shared with me the story of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, initially, he has a lot of temper, right? A lot of energy. So one of the ways that people used to, the competition used to get him is like, they always used to criticize him, and he wanted to immediately punch a blow back, right? It was like, I want to do this and do this. So that was his entire vulnerability. So what his coach did was, apparently, he says like, dude, there is a way that you could channel this energy. And in fact, in the Shriramji, correct me if I'm wrong, the 5 Agnis, Vadabha Agni is considered one of the greatest source of fire energy that you could actually use. And apparently Michael Jordan literally changed the thing. He was like, he used to invite people to kind of criticize him, and he used to take it all in, and then, he became invincible, to a point where the competition is like, you can actually bully anybody around, but with Michael Jordan, please leave him alone, because they're very worried that you would take that as a fuel and then, beat them apart, right? So the greatest trend that I've seen, another thing is, if you could, as Shriramji said, if you could actually develop a thick skin, and Rajesh, what you just said, your play of magic of words, if you can focus on the criticism, not the criticizer, because the attention shifts to the image of the who, not the message. And I think that leads to all the distorted perceptions. But then if you can channel that into the fuel, please go ahead.
See, like you said, like your coach Rod said wonderful things. You can also observe any very, very successful people, how they handle criticism. Usually they are very, very comfortable with criticism. In fact, the book about Abraham Lincoln, it's about the team of rivals or something. So which is basically all the people he was criticizing, he brought them into the cabinet. People asked why. They were all criticizing. No, I would rather know what are the problems with my policies here than implement it and figure it out. It's a much bigger cost. So that's how he looked at it. In fact, a few years ago, Naziruddin Shah commented on Amitabhji's choice of movies. It's a series of 1 or 2 flops, 3 flops, and then he said, Amitabhji is not even choosing the right movies or something. Now that is good enough for media people. They will go and ask Amitabhji what he will say about Naziruddin Shah. Forget about the criticism. They will say, in one event, they stopped him, Amitabhji, this Naziruddin Shah is telling that you are not even choosing the right movies. What will you say about him? He said, even they direct the question. So, but Amitabhji is as gentlemanly as possible. He put his hands in the back, he bowed down, and he said, when a person of that caliber says something, what will I do? I'll just bow down and listen and ask for more advice. The media said, oh, this is not working. They have to go somewhere. Controversy has to be found somewhere else. But the classic thing to observe is, how did he look at it? Immediately, he didn't say, I am a better actor, nothing. He said, somebody like that says something, I just want to listen and learn. And at that age, if he is telling about acting, not about cooking or something, maybe he's also a good cook, I don't know. But if acting is his core. He says, listen and learn. And who are we? We are just like work in progress people, right? So that will set the bar for us very, very high.
That's so fantastic. And I think, this is, and in fact, I've seen some people where they intentionally, seek criticism. They kind of shake your belief so that, do it so that they can feed off of that energy. And some of the athletes that I've seen. And then the second one, Shriramji, like what you said, the success of others, like the mudito. One of the things that I started at least practicing in my thing is I try to own them. I try to see themselves as part of my own identity. So which is like, hey, Rajesh ji, I'm so much, or Shriram ji or anybody, then you make them part of you. So you feel like, wow, once there is only when there is a division, then you have any kind of comparisons and all this stuff. But if you simply, frame them and then put it inside, and then one of the Yoga Sutra, that the favorite Yoga Sutra, that is a Vitaraga Vishayam Vachitam, then, just, put it in yourself, then, you can actually lead in that direction. So what a fantastic discussion. And thank you so much for bringing all your wisdom in such a very nice nuggets way and connecting it to Gita, Bhagavad Gita, and all the life learnings. And Kiran, thank you for joining us. You helped us with the right framings. So we'll spend a few, maybe one or two questions that anybody have. Otherwise, we'll wrap up the session. Anybody?
Srini, if you're okay, can I interrupt? Yeah. So as Rajesh Setty said, right, the successful people handling the criticism. For me, going back to my own life, whenever I used to give exam, even connecting to Shriram ji's this thing, whenever I used to go and give any exam, this is my own example, okay? In our family, we used to see our grandfather as the most powerful person, most successful person. And whenever we are going and giving any major exams, let it be a 10th exam or PU exam or engineering exam, used to come and say, don't worry about it. Even if you fail, even if you get 60%, even if you get 100%, even if you get 80%, don't worry about it. So our mindset used to relax so much, and we used to go and give our best. So meaning the whole, if grandfather itself is saying that, so he's anyway going to support whatever we are going to get it. So that way it used to support us so much, so even used to say, don't worry about failure, don't worry about success, just go and do your best, so that way it was such a blessings, I can say.
A fantastic way. So going back to what Kiran said earlier, in fact, in today, that is a big insight that I had. Anybody before going to an exam or interview or anything, you first take time to celebrate that before. Then after, I think, this is the biggest practice that I've learned. I think, I hope I can actually, this is like I think in the movies that's what they're doing, right? Pre-release parties. And because we don't know once the movie release whether it's going to be success or failure, so why not do so I think we should all make it a party of pre-release and everyday celebration. That's something that we can do. Anybody else have any thoughts or comments? Any closing thoughts or comments? Okay, so let's wrap up the session. Everybody, please maybe close your eyes. Kiran, you want to sing the final prayer? Okay, good.
ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Wow, what a joyful exploration of the knowledge. Yeah. And Shriramji and Rajesh, if you don't know the secret, when Kiran is around, I don't sing the final chanting because she's number one, is a trained classical singer. And on top of that, she always finds faults with my ucharane. So why not then delegate it? Right? That's a better way of doing it, right? So
I was thinking Goddess Saraswati has come down. So that's what I felt.
Thank you. Thank you.
you should listen to her Annamacharya Kritis, and she's almost like our YEC Asthana music singer. That's a portfolio that she carries.
So that's nice of you, Srini.
That's cool. Everyone, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next session. Pranam.
Thank you. Namaste.